Love, I get so lost sometimes. Days pass, and this emptiness fills my heart. When I want to run away, I drive off in my car. But whichever way I go, I come back to this place. All my instincts, they return, and the grand facade so soon will burn. Without a noise, without my pride, I reach out from the inside. In your eyes, the light, the heat in your eyes, I'm incomplete. Your eyes, I see the doorway. Your eyes, to 1,000 churches. Your eyes, the resolution. Our eyes, follow through this search is your eyes. In your eyes, in your eyes, in your eyes. This is the part of the show where I normally play an original song, and that was totally an original song. No, just kidding. It's by two-time Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Peter Gabriel, and hopefully there are no issues with me sharing that here, because today's guest is a poet, and he has a brilliant poem about eyes, and I just wanted to have a matching reference for that one, and I love that song, and I didn't have an original song that matched it, so anyway, today's guest is Aditya Kapur, and as I've already said, he is a poet. I tell him a little bit about why I want to speak to poets, and I'm hoping I'm going to speak to many more poets over the course of the show, because poets, they're sort of like the singer-songwriters of a different age. Sure, we've had music for a long time, but poetry used to be a much bigger, much more mainstream part of our culture, and it's still a rich art form. It has, more freedom than music, because you're not confined to having everything fit a rhythmic structure. So I just want to find out about why someone fell in love with poetry, and then talk to Aditya about his style. So without further ado, here he is. Joined today by Aditya Kapur, and I'd like to give you the context for why I invited you to join me. This YouTube channel is a project where I speak primarily to fellow musicians about our journeys to create our art and try and make it in the world, whatever that means. Occasionally, I've talked to friends who do other kinds of arts. My friend Sean, who has a background in screenwriting, my friend Daniel, who works in theater, but I really want to get going with poets. I was inspired last year. Martin Scorsese put out this concert documentary about Bob Dylan, the Rolling Thunder Review. And in it, Bob Dylan, he's talking about his new song, I Contain Multitudes. And he sort of says that back when he was growing up, everyone would have been able to quote poets. The poets were kind of like the rock stars, and music, for better or for worse, has sort of erased the poets from our shared consciousness. Like, unless you're an English major or some other kind of intellectual, you're not necessarily quoting poetry. You don't have favorite poets. So I want to break with that. I want to have that same experience that Bob Dylan had growing up. So why don't you talk about what made you fall in love with poetry? What clicks with you with this art form?
Right. Well, I think poetry or writing in general takes me back to days when you're in your teenage years, and you do have rough patches every now and then. So I think I entered writing as a way of expression, because writing and poetry was one way wherein I used to express what was deep inside me, something which words couldn't really justify, or something which I wasn't able to talk to people on their faces. And other than that, I think I was always somebody who was, who could be easily moved with words, somebody who is very attracted towards words. So I think in my early days, I did read a couple of poems by very versatile writers in my native language, Hindi, or some Urdu writers' work translated to Hindi or English. and English poems as well. And I think that's when I felt the connect to what words can do, the effect which words can have on you. I mean, the depth which they contain. So yeah, precisely that.
Do you remember who any of those first poets would have been? I mean, for me as a little kid, I liked Shel Silverstein, but I think that didn't lead me to more poetry because he's writing comedy essentially. So what I liked was the jokes. It wasn't necessarily the word play or the use of language. Do you remember what in your education, what you were reading actually made you love the art form?
I think Wordsworth was the first poet which I actually explored. And I think I really liked his poems. I really liked some of his publications, some of his ballads. And then again, not restricting myself to poetry, I did read some of Shakespeare in my curriculum. And I mean, I like that as well. And I think talking particularly about poetry, I knew some poets, or when I got to know some poets when I graduated high school. The first spoken word, if I talk about the first spoken word which I heard was Phil and Sarah Kay's "When Love Arrives," and I think that piece always hits me. Again, Phil Kay's repetition. Then I discovered Neil Hilborn and poets like that, and I think that's when I was attracted towards poetry and spoken word in particular.
Right. And it may be a cultural difference. I was reading this interview with the Indian Canadian poet Rupi Kaur the other day, in which she says she didn't think of herself as a poet because everyone, she says, in her community was writing some kind of casual poetry. So I don't know, did you grow up with a lot of people casually doing poetry?
Well, I did grow up with a lot of people casually expressing their thoughts through words because honestly, especially growing in a brown community, growing in India, you cannot always speak a lot of things out in open. You have barriers like families, community, what would people think, what would people say. So I've seen a lot of friends who would write things, and some of them would hide them in their diaries, some of them would publish blogs, or some of them would just conceal everything they feel in words. So I did grow up with a lot of people who were into writing, who were expressing, even more than writing, Zach, I'd say they were expressing through art. It could be painting, it could be music, it could be words, it could be anything in the form of art. And I think that's when I also started to value it a lot. That it's, even if you're talking about a song, it's not just mere words or mere music. There could be a deeper meaning which not everybody could really go ahead and understand.
Right.
So I think, yeah, I did grow up with a lot of people who were writing or who were making some form of art to liberate themselves.
I think one of the challenges I've had getting into poetry, like the advantage that songs have is they're repetitive. They have a chorus, something that you can remember afterwards. Where my experience with a poem often is that I'll listen to it, I'll think it's beautiful, I'll think something's interesting, but it can't stick in my head the way a song does. Do you experience it differently, or are there any tricks you use to remember or get people to remember your poems?
Again, firstly, I believe that whatever I write, most of my poems are something which are very, very personal. So I do not have any technicalities to it. They're just a flow of thoughts into words. So there was a time when I really liked rhyming schemes, or where I was really attracted towards, attached towards repetitions or alliteration. I used to do that a lot. But I think as I grew up, it was more about just expressing yourself. So even if I'm writing a line or a sentence that does not rhyme, and I can break it into parts with which I can communicate my story, I think that does the work for me. So I do not really have any tricks or hacks to it.
Fair enough. Because, like, so I know your poems through this online open mic, and I've been going through your Instagram and reading what you posted, and I recognize lots of them, but it's been making me rethink what I listen to. Because I realize now a lot of them, if you see them on a page, they just look like prose, like easy to read essays, yet you deliver them in a kind of beat poetry style. So even though it's written like an essay, it sounds like a poem. Is this your invention? Does the style come from anywhere? Tell me a bit about that.
Again, I just go with the flow. So most of my pieces are very real. So what I mean to say is that whatever I write, it is usually about myself, or it is somebody, it is related to somebody who's very close to me. It could be something which is picked up from a close friend's life, or a family member's life, or something which I just witnessed while traveling on the bus this morning. So while I know that it's my own story or it's my own perspective, I just try to like let the words flow. And again, while I entered spoken word, even I did not realize that there has to be certain sort of an art to it, or there's a way of recital. But I think now, while I've done a couple of spoken words for about 3 to 4 years, I think whatever helps you, it just whatever helps you communicate yourself, communicate your story or express yourself in the best possible manner, you just go with the flow.
Right. So your way of sharing your work, you'll usually have a cool photograph, and then on the Instagram feature you slide to the next tile and you see the poem. One of your more conventional poems, though perhaps one of the more mysterious one, is one about eyes. You have a quotation from Scarface in there. Can you tell us a bit about that one?
Sure. I think Eyes is a very personal poem because I've always seen how people romanticize eyes. Like, it is inspired from one thought in Scarface connected to how there are songs about eyes. Like, if you look at the Indian film industry, there are multiple songs concentrating just how deep the eyes are, how eyes do the talking. There are dialogues, there are screenplays around eyes. And I wanted to see that, what exactly is the hype all about? If I look in my eyes in the mirror, I see nothing.
Right.
Or what exactly is I'm supposed to see? And that is when that piece was, formed. So it was a very simple thought. And I just got my notepad and I just started scribbling. Again, I'm not a poet, Zach. I am just somebody who has a story to tell, just like all of us. We're all storytellers around. And I think I'm just one of them because a poet needs to have a base of people who follow him, some sort of technicalities, some sort of backing knowledge. I don't think I have any of those. I am just somebody who has been expressing through words for a long period of time. So now he just knows how to express his thoughts or how to channelize what he has in his head on a sheet of paper. So I think that's who I am.
Yeah, well, I think being a poet is about choosing to present yourself that way. And I guess today you're choosing not to, but honestly, just looking at your social media output, the way that you organize it, you have these beautiful photographs, you're sharing all these poems with the world. At very least, you're a lot more a poet than a lot of other people. The other one I wanted to ask about, just because I like visuals and the photography, you took a photo in front of these two anthropomorphic bottles. It's like a yellow graffiti wall, and then you put a piece behind there about using Bumble. Is there? Yes. Do you know anything about that mural? And then can you talk a bit about that piece?
So it's a place in Delhi wherein they've just painted the walls through, in the form of murals. They've painted a lot of murals there. And if you look at that particular photo, then and I mean, I had no idea to use this with this piece. I was just looking away, and a friend of mine just captured a photograph. And then I realized that how these two people are looking at this one person who is passing by, trying to judge this one person based on the social connotations or the kind of things which exist in the society of the way, like, is he even trying to meet the bare minimum of what the society expects out of us? And that person could be one different person who's just looking away from all of those. Mm-hmm. He has his own path. He has his own definition of perfect, or his own definition of normal, or his own definition of himself, which might be beyond the society.
Right. And I think so you're saying that the person looking at the mural in the photo is being judged by society. Something to you seems weird about that person in the photo.
Yeah, the person is just looking down at, again, the person is just being himself and the society is judging him. And I think my piece around Bumble is also, it revolves around the same idea of how sometimes we just have to get accepted in the dating circuit or in the dating circle that we just blindly follow what is expected on that platform rather than being us or what the parts of the poem talk about.
Right. So would you say you advocate for that being yourself thing? I think one of the great turning points in my life, I was talking to a therapist about my social struggles, and I said, you know, all the TV shows, the moral is always be yourself, but I've been trying being myself, and that doesn't seem to work very well. So I don't know, is that something you reflect on a lot?
I actually do, and I think I was that one person who was, certain sort of an academic overachiever in high school. And when you enter university, it is suddenly a place with no boundaries. You see people from different backgrounds. There is a level of social acceptability that exists there, and I think it took me some time, but I did have that one moment when I was just sitting down and I just said to myself that the world is not going to accept you fully on any single day. No matter how much you go harsh on yourself or how much you try to meet those requirements or those standards which they expect out of you. But if you can accept yourself fully one day, then maybe one day you'll stop caring about the world.
Right.
And I think it was that day when I accepted myself for the way I was, for the way, I was one of those people who had social image issues or body image issues or the way I looked or the way I, did things. But then eventually, and it is a very slow process. It is a very gradual process. It took me some 2 to 3 years to reach that point, and I'm still working on myself constantly because it's a never-ending struggle, wherein I just try to, have zero expectations and 100% acceptance about things, about my own self and the way I am. And maybe I think that has helped me reach where I am today.
Excellent. Well, Aditya, do you have some poems you can share with us?
Sure. You want to hear eyes again?
Sounds good.
Okay, so the first thought is that eyes, do they speak the truth that's raw or the truth that's neutral or nothing at all? And that's what I found one night. And this is how it goes. It's called On Eyes. I didn't really have a suitable title for it. I remember something from Scarface that goes like, the eyes, Chico, they never lie. It's 2:45 a.m. I begin to recall the eyes I've seen. The eyes that shined after watching sunflowers, trying to extract the warmth out of them. The eyes that reflected the broken soul, trying to find solace in the darkness of the night sky. I remember the eyes which used to look away, trying to hold on in times of letting go. And the eyes that looked into yours. The pupils that expanded and suddenly contracted, and I saw in the red of love the black of their hearts. I remember the eyes that used to be swollen the next morning, being dismissed as sleepy when the real term used was shattered. It's 3 a.m. I stand in front of the mirror and I look at myself. I look at my eyes and wonder what they speak of me. You see, I have a pair of brown eyes, and there's nothing special about it because that's about 79% of the population in the world. But I wonder if they have something unique to say, like the way they romanticize in movies and poems and songs and books. Do they tell the world about my stories and my scars and how I view humor all over myself to hide the sheets of despair under it? Do they tell them about my hopes and dreams, about the ones that were cherished but shattered, and the ones that remain but are somehow safe? When my eyes contract, do they tell them about my withdrawal from situations and arguments because they're too worthless to engage with? Or because I still want to save the little that is still left? When I look at skies, I express through my eyes. Can they see it? Can they feel it? I keep looking at them in the mirror, but I see nothing and I feel nothing and I read nothing. I can't even notice the depths of them. I have so many questions. I have curiosity. I have inquisitiveness. Is the water that says perpetually in there visible to all? Is there still any remnant of pain from the past? Or can somebody really find hope in them? Can they also see them or expect them to shine with happiness someday? Or are they too honest and too vulnerable and deeper than my words? I look into my eyes in the mirror. I see nothing. I feel nothing. I understand nothing. It's 3:30 a.m. I try harder, but it's still the same. Nothing. Maybe that's what they see. Nothing. Maybe that's what it really is. Nothing. Maybe the positive and normative of my eyes are both nothing. Maybe that's what they interpret from my eyes. It is same about what my feelings or what they know about them. Nothing. It's 4 a.m. My eyes are swollen because I'm sleepy. I do not understand what they say or how deep they are. But well, eyes. Are they really the mirrors to who we are? Or are they just another windows for everyone else to interpret? Maybe I'll never understand. Thank you.
Very nice. What I think the line that I most remembered, ironically, was the one about how 75% of the world is brown eyes, probably
Right.
more. So I think that fits in great with these conversations about, being yourself. Are you really a poet? Are you ordinary? It's
Right.
it's a great launching pad. But no, that was beautiful.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else you can read?
Sure. I think there's this. This is one of the first poems which I wrote, and this is called Maybe. And this is from a group of friends who had a lot of questions with respect to life, with respect to who we are, where we will be. And this is from one of those drunk nights in the hills, wherein somebody was just playing the guitar and somebody just started a conversation and it went through, it just took a U turn. So this is called Maybe. Maybe. Maybe we are all cats of a different coat trying to fit in the same herd of sheep. Some of us are orchids stuck in the world of Tinder or Bumble. The others might be Coke Studios in the world of EDMs. Or you see, on some nights, maybe we're all trying to stay happy on an island of remorse. But happiness is materialistic. It depends on the chances we take and the choices we make, but we aren't fully happy. For we made this choice by chance, manufactured by opinions and notions that were imposed and not ours. Maybe we are like planets rotating and revolving, trying to set ourselves free from this monotony, but this freedom lies on the edge of this circular orbit. And even though I hate math, I don't remember circles having any edges. Maybe we are the dreamers stuck in these stories of moon and stars, but right when we are about to settle for them, the punch of reality hits us hard in the face and dreams are lost with animated stars boggling our minds and zoning us out until we realize what it is. We're all just zoned out. Maybe. Maybe we're the broken pieces, clueless about ourselves, clueless about us being tampered and broken and shattered and not okay. But how can you fix yourself when you don't even know that you're broken in the first place? Maybe we're the homeless travelers trying to find homes. The homes we want are beyond our dreams, and the homes we get are on the foundation of compromise. Compromise. It has been the foundation of our lives and the killer of hopes and dreams and aspirations and aims. Compromise chops down the wings and handicaps us in its entirety, blinding us altogether from the magic that exists. Maybe we're the real nightmares dressed like a daydream, not just on our Instagram captions, but in real life too. We're the real nightmares dressed like a daydream because we stream internally, we smile outside, and we breathe soft, trying to fix others while we ourselves are falling apart. Maybe that is why the horror movies scare the shit out of us. Oh, wait, they do not scare us at all because nothing can match the horrors of anxiety and overthinking, of depression, of low self esteem, of acceptance and rejection. Our lives are scarier than a horror movie, and the demons lie not under our beds but inside our heads. Maybe that is why we sleep a lot. Because when we sleep, everything is calm, composed, and sorted in order. But the moment we open our eyes, it feels like an apocalypse. Maybe that's why we're afraid of going outside and revealing ourselves. Because the only layers we have are that of despair and despondence, and deep under the skin, remorse flows as a blood, and the strength is drained, making us weak. But wait, I can't cry or show myself as weak because the society says, and my Instagram bio says, that mom didn't raise a coward. Maybe for a reason, we are the messiahs to people who are suffering. Like Harry Potter, we see them happy in our erased mirrors and we see ourselves in them. And even though we don't have words to soothe ourselves, we have them in abundance to soothe them and guide them home. Maybe we're the lights to guide them home. The Urdu poet Faiz says, "Lambi hai gum ki sham, magar sham hi to hai." But maybe this sham will never end. Maybe we are all like a bottle of whiskey. Old is gold. The older we get, the dreams get dead, and the acceptance of our failed selves creeps in to get cemented. It's bitter in the beginning, just like my dad's blue label, but never fails to organically intoxicate me completely. Maybe. Maybe with the lonely travelers in an unknown town on a chilly winter night, trying to fight the battles that kill our dreams and desires. We burn our dreams away to sustain and then move ahead, leaving behind moist ashes as we cry on them for one last time. But wait, as I told you, boys don't cry. Maybe in a quest to reach where we are from where we were, and in between where we are and where we wished we were, we lost ourselves in the vicious circle of life between choices wanted and not opted for, and choices unwanted but opted for. We gave up on ourselves. Maybe. Maybe it's just a matter of some maybes. Maybe we're just stuck in our set of maybes. The maybes that help us vent out a regret with a tear in our eye and a smile on our face. Maybe this is who we are. We are the shoots of bamboo. We bend but never break. Maybe I should stop. Stop with this overthinking, with this rant. Maybe I should live. Or maybe we can talk about our maybes and when to smile and cry and in between live. Maybe we can live another day, another year, another lifetime with our set of maybes. Maybe we can all live.
And I noticed a little smile when you executed that wordplay with like the two maybes right next to each other. But anyway, Aditya, this has been great. Thank you so much for joining to me today and talking to me about your non-art, however you see it.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. So that was Aditya Kapur, and as I was preparing for this show, I was looking at some of his poems that are available online, and I'm going to include a link to his Instagram below. But it really doesn't match hearing him deliver those poems. It's hard to put into words what it is, but his performance is really impressive, and that cycles back to what Bob Dylan was saying about how before there were singer-songwriters, there were poets, And even if the poems don't have catchy choruses that get into my head right away, there is something absolutely effective about hearing an Aditya Kapur performance. So I don't know, maybe one day he'll be playing in auditoriums and people will be doing the lighters or the cell phone lights going back and forth during one of his slow, beautiful poems. Aditya, I know you're in denial about being a poet. I know a lot of artists do that. Jon Stewart used to say he wasn't a journalist, for better or for worse. But Aditya, in my mind, you definitely are a poet. You've done some great work, and all of you should check it out. And all of you should keep watching my videos. I'm Zach Morgenstern. This is Ludwig von B. See you next time.